This is a guy in Bryce George that's really going to be able to your point, bolster that offensive line. He may not be a day one, week one starter, but he's definitely a guy that you want to have in your locker room. Game changers and big moves. 2025 transfers who could flip the script. I'm Nathan Johnston, here with my co-host Brad Hopkins. It's time to break the huddle. And today we have a very special segment beginning, our top 25 transfers from this year's offseason heading into the 2025 season. And we're starting off with a big one. And by big, I mean big in size, Brad. We're starting off with the big boys from the Iowa Hawkeyes. And the Hawkeye fans should be very, very happy about these guys. Brad, we're going to talk about a guy in Bryce George, transfer offensive lineman from, I believe, a Division II school in Ferris State. Brad, we've seen Iowa put out linemen left and right. We've also seen them put out a few tight ends into the NFL. This is somewhat of an undersized guy, and I say undersized considering he's coming from Division II, hasn't played at the bigger level in the Big Ten. Now he gets a chance to prove himself as he transfers in to the Iowa Hawkeyes. What are your thoughts on this guy, and what is he bringing to this Iowa Hawkeyes offense?
Yeah, so speaking of Bryce George, the player, I mean, you look at his size at 6'5", 314. He looks like an Iowa Hawkeye offensive lineman. He's going to fit that program and that offensive line really, really well. Of course, I think my big question mark is how does he do, jumping up in competition. This is a guy that a very, very successful player at Ferris State. That's a really, really good program. He was an All-American there. But now he's going up against, defensive linemen that are just as big as he is, that are faster, they're more physical at the point of attack on the offensive line. So how does he transition? From the Iowa standpoint, look, the Big Ten, it's always good to have quality offensive linemen, whether this guy is one of the 5 starters or he's one of those guys that they bring in off the bench for, as a substitute, for depth, or, a guy that you have off the bench for injury. You can never have too many quality offensive linemen. We know with Iowa, it's not changed. They're going to run the football. They're going to control the clock, and they're going to have, they're going to be big in the play action pass game. It's not a real dynamic offense. It's not an offense that's going to just light up the scoreboard. But I like this Bryce George pickup. No, it's not the flashiest. It's not the biggest. Like, we're going to talk about some other guys that are some bigger names.
Sure.
But I think for Iowa, just to, like I said, I'm interested to hear about this guy in the fall. But just, speaking here in the summer, I like just the depth piece. I think it makes sense for them.
Yeah, and another transfer guy that we're not going to talk about much today, as we get later on and closer to the year, we will, and that's transfer quarterback Mark Gronowski from South Dakota State, coming over from the Jackrabbits to Iowa as well. This is a guy in Bryce George that's really going to be able to, your point, bolster that offensive line. He may not be a day one, week one starter, but he's definitely a guy that you want to have in your locker room on the field in case something happens. And we look at guys like Caden Proctor, who started out his career committing to Iowa, ends up at Alabama, then transfers to Iowa, then transfers back to Bama. Maybe Iowa can start getting some guys up front that stay true and stay home in the state of Iowa. It's going to be interesting to see. And, I'm big on NFL comparisons. I like to compare these guys to NFL guys, and the best NFL comparison I have to Bryce George is Alex Kappa, offensive lineman for the Cincinnati Bengals. He developmental starter at the guard and tackle position. This guy can play both. He's very versatile. I think if he can get settled in and really learn the offense like they need him to, this could be one of the most underrated transfers that we see in the class of 2025.
Absolutely, I agree with that. You spoke to a really, I think, a good point. We've seen this. I mean, you're seeing this at all levels of football, but offensive line coaches, they want guys with versatility. The center's a very, very tough position just because you're controlling protections, you're obviously snapping the ball, but those guys that can play either tackle position or tackles that can end up moving inside or vice versa, they're valuable. They're really, really critical. And if Bryce George ends up developing into that, Iowa's got a good player here.
Oh, yeah. And I just looked at my notes real quick, some of the notes I took down. The first thing that is on the playing style, physical run blocker with good leverage. I mean, that's to a T what Iowa is trying to do. High motor, chip on shoulder attitude. Again, like we said at the beginning, this is a very underrated guy, has a lot to prove, but there's probably not many people expecting him to be a first-round pick, and I think that makes him more of a sleeper. I think it gives him the edge long-term, hoping to get to the NFL one day.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
If you're an Iowa Hawkeye fan, let us know down in the comments what you think about your new offensive tackle/guard, Bryce George, heading over from Ferris State. Big physical guy at the point of attack who loves to take on the run block and push ahead. Be sure to subscribe down below, give this video a like, and we'll see you next week. It's time to break the huddle.